What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the official Third Age Reforged YouTube channel. My name is Jordan, also known as J Monster. Thank you for joining me for a replay battle. Today we have a community-made map made by Zach Almighty. Big thank you to him for setting the map in. This is the Dry Lake Bed. There's a massive force here from Gondor and Harad fighting over the remains of this lake bed, and what I can only assume is one of Sauron's newest environmental initiatives to restore the lakes of Middle-earth by refilling them with the blood of his enemies, which is an environmental policy which I'm sure we will all appreciate before the deed is done. But without any further ado, let's get right into the army compositions, then we can jump into the battle itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. So as this is a sub-commander battle, we will be breaking the armies down by section. For those of you a little bit unfamiliar with what constitutes a sub-commander battle is a battle in which each player takes command of a certain portion of a much grander army. So for example, you're going to have a bow player, an infantry player, and a cavalry player, and it all has to come together really well with teamwork. You need an effective team to be effective as a sub-commander army. So yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of, as I said, teamwork and coordination that has to go into these, so they're always fun to watch. But in any case, let's start the army compositions. We're going to take a look at the army of Zach Almighty, who is the missile sub-commander. He's got a large number of Southron archers. You can see them right there. He's also got a huge force of Corsair archers. Most of his force being composed of one of these two kinds of units. He's also got a couple units of Corsair Blackguards. These guys are wonderful, and in fact double as infantry once they've thrown their javelin payloads, which do a ton of AP damage. I think like 14 or 15 missile damage. So they are devastating to heavily armored, tightly compacted factions like the Gondorians, who they are facing today. Moving on now, we've got a couple units of the Muhad Tribesmen. Everybody loves the Muhad Tribesmen. They are essentially a lower rent version of the Blackguard. They're not bad in melee, but not quite as good. And they have, I think, a little bit more numbers than the Blackguard themselves. They've also got a shield, which means they can stand up a little bit better to missile fire from the front, whereas the Blackguard lack that completely. Behind them, he's got one unit of Naru Royal Archers, which I believe is the general unit. He's also got two units of Hashari Shadows. These guys are a medium archer with 2 HP, and they can hide anywhere. So they're great for ambushes, and again, quite good in melee once everything has been said and done. So there's almost a lot of infantry in this force as well. Cheating. In any case, moving on now, we've got one unit of Ballista, one unit of Catapult, and that basically does it for Zach Almighty's force. Moving on now, we have the army of Cannon Fodder. He's got a couple units of Serpent Guard, 1 or 2 units of Corsair Savages. These guys are light infantry, but so devastating on the charge. You can get them stuck in against heavy infantry, and they will rip them to pieces, but they will take horrendous casualties in doing so. So they are essentially the Immaculate Shock Troop. You send them in to die, they do lots of damage, and then they fall apart very quickly. He's also got a few units of Corsair Warriors, medium swordsmen, not terribly well armored, but they can stand up to other infantry for a little while as long as they are supported. He's also got, those are more Corsair Warriors, but he's got some Belgier footmen right here. These guys are here to give him a little bit of an extra anti-cavalry edge. They're not bad, and they're very cost effective. I think they only cost like maybe 550 florins. You can field quite a lot of them if you are so inclined. And of course they are spearmen, so they will hold the line against melee infantry for quite some time. He's also got a couple units of Castamir's Chosen. Everybody loves these guys. I think they are AP in the current iteration of Reforged, which is set to change with the arrival of patch 0.9. So don't rely on that advice too much, because obviously it is subject to change. But at the moment, they're AP and 2 HP, and very, very good for pushing through enemy unit formations. They have a lot of mass, in fact, so they are quite effective as battering rams. Over here we have 1 or 2 units of Trollmen of Harad. These guys are the backbone of any Haradrim infantry force. They are they're basically the iconic Harad unit. These guys were present in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, being described as having great pink lolling tongues and just being utterly terrifying. They are AP, multiple hit points, very, very good, and like I said, the backbone of any serious Haradrim infantry force. Moving on over here, we have the forces of Son of Imladris, and he's brought just a huge number of Haradrim Spearmen, just a sea of Haradrim Spears. I think the strategy that they're going for here is to use a lot of fodder units as like a main line, and then to mix them in with some of their more important AP units, like the Castamir's Chosen and the Trollmen of Harad, which ultimately makes for a very effective force against an army like Gondor's. Gondor has decent numbers and pretty good infantry in there who are all heavily armored, so a great strategy is to wear them down with some of these cheaper units and then move in with your elites and punch through where the lines are thinnest. He's also got a large number of Corsairs. These guys are light infantry, very vulnerable to missiles, but they have quite nice attack values. I don't believe that they're AP, but they are great at supporting a battle line, such as the very numerous forces of the Harad Spearmen, or for flanking maneuvers. So they definitely have a place and can be very effective if you use them correctly. Again, some more Trollmen of Harads and some Castimirs chosen as well. And finally, one unit of Narunar Royal Guards for the General's Bodyguard unit. Moving on now, we have a little bit of support from the Easterlings. This is Sin of the Dark Cloud commanding the cavalry component of the sub-commander army. He's got, he basically hits all the bases with this force. He's got a couple units of horse archers, a unit of bodyguard, which is a slightly upgraded version of the golden cataphracts you see in the back. He's also got, of course, a couple units of the Lokai Inas Rim. These guys are 2 HP, very heavily armored, very deadly. There's some Brotherhood of the Lance mixed in there as well, and a couple units of Variag cataphracts, who are just fantastic. These guys are some of the best cavalry in the game. Not the best, but they're definitely like the top 5, I would say, at the very least. He's also got a couple units here of the light cavalry. These are Wind Riders of Khan. These guys are so fast, so ridiculously fast, and from what I understand, they're only going to get even faster in the next patch. They are the immaculate light cavalry unit. Everything you'd want from light cavalry. Fast, great at harassment, really useful for penetrating through weak points in an enemy line, exploiting gaps and that sort of thing. You just don't want to get them caught in melee or get them within range of archers, because they will die like dogs, and it's very sad to see that. But that's it for the runic army composition. Let's move on over to the Gondorians rather, and take a look at what they're bringing. Starting with their cavalry forces and sweeping east, we have the army of Rohan, because of course it's Rohan, riding to the aid of their old allies once again. Got a couple units of scouts, exactly what you would expect thereabouts. Not a bad pick for scouting out forest positions and making sure that there's no ambushes lying in wait for you. They're also quite swift and have a decent charge bonus as well. So if you can get them into enemy skirmishers, they're a nice like kind of throwaway shock troop unit that won't really cost you a whole lot if you lose it. Over here we have a unit that is new in .86. In fact, these are the Mounted Shield Maidens. These ladies are very deadly. They have a lot of damage. They throw Franciscas, and once that payload has been used up, they are able to join the fight and fight as basically medium cavalry. Over here we have 3 units of Riders of the Fold. These guys are everything you'd want out of a bow skirmisher unit. They have shields, heavy armor, and they are also quite swift despite all of that. And once they run out of ammunition, they're not terrible in melee, but obviously that's not the ideal engagement for them. Recrius is also bringing a couple units of Air Red Heavy Lancers. These guys are quite efficient. They've got a lot of numbers, a lot of defense, and a really nice charge bonus as well. And if they get themselves caught in melee for an extended period of time, they're okay. They'll do well against some like lower or mid-tier infantry, but against really high-tier cavalry, they will fall apart very quickly, so you want to keep them moving at all times. Over here we have another unit that is new in .86. These are the Royal Lords. These guys are 4 HP. This is like a kind of battering ram unit. It's great against other cavalry units, great against infantry. It's the kind of unit that really puts Rohan at the top of the cavalry pecking order in engagements. Recrius is also bringing a couple units of Royal Guard alongside one unit of Rohan Bodyguards, which is essentially a slightly more effective, more expensive Royal Guard unit. So for all intents and purposes, he's got 3 units of Royal Guard. Moving on now to the Gondorian contingents, we have the army of F9 WK9 commanding the missile units. He's got a lot of rangers, which are traditionally quite good in melee afterwards. Obviously, they're not heavy infantry, so you want to use them in a support role if you have to commit them to a melee fight. But yeah, they also have a lot of really nice bow damage as well, so a very versatile unit. He's bringing 1 unit of Nirmadel Rangers and 3 units of Athelian Rangers. The rest of them, I think, are hiding out in here somewhere, but trust me, there's 3 of them. He's also got 3 units of Coastal Wardens, very cost-efficient javelins. Everybody loves these guys. I think they're actually a little bit better for their cost than the Pelargir Marines. But of course, as with any javelin unit, you need to get them into effective range without having them get destroyed by cavalry or infantry or missiles. So they're a little bit tricky to use, but if you can get them into a good position, they'll pay for themselves very, very quickly. F9 WK9 also bringing a few units of Tirith Air Marksmen. These guys are heavily armored bowmen. They lack the HP of some of the other Tirith Air units, but their armor more than makes up for it. They're very good at outlasting enemy skirmishers. I think the lightly armored Haradrim bowmen are really going to struggle with these units because they are essentially everything that they fear. He's also got a couple units of Gondor archers, who honestly, compared to the rest of the glorious skirmishers in this army, fall a little bit short, in my opinion. But he's definitely got a couple of them. They're good for, like, just massive volleys of fire. They've got a little bit better, I think, than average bow damage, and their range is kind of just okay as well. And to top off the entire force, he's got 2 units of ballista. Moving on now to the infantry corps of the army, we have the army of Vislak. He's got a large number of Tirthair Wardens. These guys are like very dependable battle line infantry. They've got 2 HP. Not the greatest attack value, so they won't deal a lot of damage in return, but they will hold for a very long time. So deploy these guys where you need to hold out the longest. Vislak also bringing some Citadel Guard. These guys are... There's sort of an upgraded version, I think, of the Gondorian Spearmen. A little bit more armor, a little bit better morale, and a little bit of extra attack as well. His elite corps consists of some Haven Guard and some Wardens of the White Tower. Everybody loves the Haven Guard. These guys are just so deadly. Look at that. Look at that model. Very sexy, and they do a lot of damage with their 3 HP. They will be able to stand up for a very long time. Wardens of the White Tower, everybody loves to bring these guys because they are so cost efficient. They are very cheap to 2 HP heavily armored infantry with some fairly decent attack values as well. So they will definitely serve you well at the battle line and deal a lot of damage in return before they are wiped out. The core of his force, however, consists of course, Gondor infantry. A large line here, I believe about 4 or 5 units of them, backed up by 3 or 4 units of Guards of Osgiliath. These guys are quite, they're okay. Pike units in Medieval 2 can often fall quite short, but the Guards of Osgiliath are very, very numerous, and they don't cost too much to bring. So it's a great option to have mixed in with your Gondor infantry. It's a nice 1-2 punch that can be quite effective. Fourth and finally, we have the rest of the Gondorian infantry, and this looks like a force composed mostly of men-at-arms from the various fiefdoms of Gondor. So we've got some Dol-Amroth men-at-arms here, 2 on the other flank. Backed up by some Axemen of Lossarnac. These guys are cheap AP shock troops, also good against cavalry, so you can use them to support your cavalry forces, making them quite versatile. I like them. His center is composed of Gondor militia, not the best heavy infantry unit, but a nice pairing for some of the cheaper Haradrim units. Good to have these guys to throw against some of the Haradrim, so that Gondor doesn't have to tire out their elites, and yeah, just wear down the best of their troops before they really get to the meat and potatoes of the Haradrim army. In the back, we got some more Tirthair Wardens. Everybody loves these guys, and some Guards of Osgiliath. A very substantial force of Guards of Osgiliath, more than enough, I think, to complement the large number of Gondor infantry present in Vislak's army. And finally, we have the Bodyguard unit. This is the Dismounted Swan Knights, a classic 3rd Age unit. They're pretty good, not as good as some of the other Gondorian heavy infantry picks, but still, they are 2 HP, heavily armored. You can't go wrong with that at all. That basically does it for the army compositions. Let's go ahead and let's jump right into the replay. You can see both sides now forming themselves up, getting ready for a showdown. The Haradrim Spearmen getting themselves in loose formation, but not wanting to mince words. They're now charging forward, full of fire and fury, and the Gondorians are going to answer in their disciplined, well-armored ranks, charging forward to meet the Haradrim in the middle of this bloody oasis. Let's just let's slow it down a little bit here so we can enjoy this initial charge. Here we go. Big charge into the front of those Dol-Amroth men-at-arms. That's a great fight for the Dol-Amroth men-at-arms. The Haradrim Spearmen definitely have the numbers, but they do not have the fighting skill or the armor to stand up to those disciplined warriors for very long. Gondor Militia in the center doing pretty well against the Haradrim Spearmen. I think that's a fight that they can ultimately win. They both have quite similar numbers, and the Gondorians have a little bit higher attack value than the Haradrim Spearmen. Elsewhere, though, all along the lines, Gondorians and Haradrim warriors clashing in this fearsome struggle in the desert. And if you look in the back here, you can see Harad mobilizing its reserves, moving in now with some of its Corsairs. A really nice combination. The Corsairs more than make up for the lack of attack that the Haradrim Spearmen have, but the Haradrim Spearmen bring the staying power thanks to their large numbers. It looks to me like the Gondorians having a little bit of trouble here mobilizing their reserves. I think possibly their front line got a little too far ahead of itself, and now the rest of the pike phalanxes are now struggling to catch up. Let's have a nice pan here all along the line. Haradrim and Gondor warriors just brutalizing each other. A little bit of a flanking movement coming in here from Mechanic 007, bringing in his Tirthair Wardens. Over on this end, you can see Sin of the Dark Cloud mobilizing his light cavalry, looking to, I think, test the readiness of the Rohirrim, but he is not going to find the Rohirrim wanting. Moving forward now with a couple units of scouts, Recrius is looking to block that movement. The Scouts versus Khandish Wind Riders, it's a bit of an even fight, I think. Definitely on the charge, the Scouts will have the advantage with their lances, but ultimately I think that is a fight that will go to the Wind Riders of Khand. However, if Recrius can get those warriors in there and fight the Khandish Light Cavalry on their own, they will do enough damage to render those Light Cavalrymen combat ineffective, effectively neutralizing that unit and destroying that threat before it can become a real issue. Over on this end now, let's go take a little bit of a look about the order of battle for the heavy cavalry on both wings. Sin of the Dark Cloud has arranged the hammer of his army. Look at that. Lokayinas Rim and the Varied Cataphracts over on the Haradrim left flank. Recrius is going to have to answer with some of his more doughty cavalry. Got 3 units of Rohirrim Royal Guard here, a bodyguard unit, and 2 units of the regular Royal Guard. In reserve, you can see the Riders of the Fold. I think these guys really need to begin to move forward. Want to get your skirmish cavalry moving and working as quickly and as early as possible. They will run out of ammunition very fast, and then you can use them as light cavalry or medium cavalry to launch potentially hammer and anvil strikes or to harass enemy skirmishers. Looks like Sin of the Dark Cloud slowly moving forward. We may see some action here on the Haradrim left wing. Moving over this way, it looks like the Khandish Wind Riders have retreated in the face of those scouts. We may not see any action here, although it looks like they are turning around. Let's go ahead and let's speed it up and let's see what the result of this is going to be. I think this is going to be it. We're going to have a frontal charge here. The scouts charging into battle against the Wind Riders of Khan. Sin looking to test the resolve of his foes. And I don't think he's going to find them lacking by any means. Looks like the scouts are doing really well against those Wind Riders of Khan. It looks, oh my goodness, you can see a lot of them beginning to drop there. Sin now getting out of there as quickly as possible. But it looks like it was a bit of a diversionary tactic that's going to allow his Brotherhood of the Lance to charge into battle, and against the scouts, that is just going to be a massacre. You can see the Red Heavy Lancers moving in to try and answer, but they're just not going to get there fast enough. The Wind Riders of Khan coming into the rear, looking to harass those scouts even further. Really nice use of that light cavalry, though they are going to get caught out now in turn by the Red Heavy Lancers. Not a fight that these guys are going to win. You can hear just horses screaming and dying all over the place. Ah, it's a beautiful sight to see. Over on this end, it looks like we had a bit of a hammer and anvil strike going into the rear. Of those Tirthair Wardens, a lot of them now have died. Royal Lords trying to answer, but again, just too slow, not able to match the hit and run lightning strikes of the Runic Cavalry. Let's go ahead and let's slow it down just a little bit here. Take a look at how things are going on the battle line. Looks like Gondor is really struggling. I think that hammer and anvil strike and now the presence of a unit of Castamir's Chosen is really going to start to turn this Gondorian flank, and if they're not careful, they're going to lose their flank and begin to lose their main battle line as well as it begins to be rolled up by the Haradrim. See a javelin volley from the Coastal Wardens going into the lighter infantry. You can see a lot of the light infantry has really struggled, but Harad has now committed a lot of their elite forces to slow down just a little bit further so we don't miss anything else. But the Haradrim elite infantry really beginning to push through here. Vislak's Gondor infantry struggling so hard to hold back these dismounted Serpent Guard backed up by those Corsair Savages. That is a really nasty combination, and I think, oh my goodness, did I see some wavering already in the Dol Amroth men-at-arms of all people? They have higher morale than the Gondorian infantry, so to see them rout is a real shame. Elsewhere, the Gondor militia doing their best to try and hold back the Corsairs and the Haradrim Spearmen. They are slowly beginning to push through. The Guards of Osgiliath just not doing as well against the light infantry as could be hoped, which is going to oblige Vislak now to commit a unit of his Haven Guard, which is going to turn that engagement around real fast. The Haven Guard are very deadly. Elsewhere, it seems like Gondor is doing better, although you can see more and more elites now pouring into the fight, and Gondor, I think, just doesn't have the infantry strength to match this. It's a really nice tactic to have all of that light infantry, use them to inflict some early casualties, and then move in with the infantry units that you actually care about. Over here, though, this poor Serpent Guard, I think, got a little bit ahead of themselves, being pinned in place now by some Wardens of the White Tower and some Axemen of Lasarnak and Gondor infantry on the flank. So the Gondorians are mobilizing their elites in critical situations, really picking their battles very well, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. See some Javelin men over here, some Muhad tribesmen looking to turn the flank of the Gondorians on this side as well. Going to have to be really careful. You can see some of the Gondorian skirmishers opening fire. These are the Riders of the Fold and some of the Coastal Wardens as well, tossing their Javelin payloads into these Muhad tribesmen. Really want to shut them down as early as possible. In fact, you can see now some Some infantry moving in under Vislock, some Tier 3 Wardens, loose formation looking to take those guys on. Possibly a very deadly affair, because it does expose his flank a little bit, but luckily he has his ally nearby, Rekrace, with his Royal Guard. Hopefully this can provoke an engagement with those runic cataphracts arrayed across the field. That would be really beneficial for Gondor. He might be able to flank them with his Royal Guard, surround them, and slowly beat them into the dust. Elsewhere, though, it looks like the scouts have pulled back from that engagement and now moving back to reoccupy the ground they lost to the Wind Riders. But Sin is trying a different tack now, moving in with his Variag Horse Archers, looking to just skirmish those scouts down. Those scouts are very light. They have almost no armor to speak of and no shields. They are easy prey for the Horse Archers. They're not fast enough to catch the Horse Archers, and just not survivable enough to stand up to those volleys for any significant length of time. So let's go ahead and let's speed up a little bit here. You can see those scouts just getting absolutely massacred by those Horse Archers. They are backed up a little bit by the Royal Lords, which is going to oblige the Horse Archers to flee in the face of that overwhelming assault. But I don't think it's going to be enough to save those scouts. Looks like the Royal Guard now charging into battle against the Muhad tribesmen, unfortunately messing up their charge a little bit and not being able to flatten and totally pancake that unit very, very quickly and cause them to rout, which is going to bog that cavalry down. Oh man, those poor scouts getting charged now by everything. Wind Riders of Khan back for some revenge alongside some Brotherhood of the Lance. Rohan is really, I think, overcommitted on this end here. The Royal Lords on their own were enough to defeat the Muhad tribesmen, and because of this overcommitment, it has left their flank exposed. So Rune is going to be able to come in with his Brotherhood of the Lance, get a nice flank charge into those Arid Heavy Lancers, which is going to massacre them. That is very unfortunate. Over here we have a little bit of a cat and mouse game. What remains of the scouts still trying to chase down those Horse Archers, but getting charged in the rear by the Wind Riders of Khand. Not an even fight at all, though there might be a little bit of friendly fire there, claiming some of the lives of the Wind Riders of Khand. Although, yeah, one or two of them went down in that volley, but overall a win for the Khand's forces, which is going to open up the Gondorian back lines, allowing Sin to just wreak absolute havoc here. All these poor Ithilien Rangers losing out to these Wind Riders of Khand. That is very, very unfortunate. Yeah, the Gondorians are going to have to react with this now. They're moving in with some heavy cavalry. This could spell disaster for the Gondorian forces if they are not able to mobilize an effective resistance force. They do have some archers here, which they could use to just mass fire on them and then move in with some infantry and some of their cavalry. Oh, look at that. Looks like the Runic general has now fallen in combat. Very unfortunate for the Runic player. But honestly, now that I think about it, he's got a lot of really elite cavalry. They're not about to rout anytime soon, although that is a weakening effect for their morale just generally. Harad managing to break through now, getting into these poor coastal wardens. This is not a fight they want to be in. They don't want to be fighting these Casimirs Chosen. It looks like Rekrace is going to capitalize on an opportunity here and try and charge into the rear of those Casimirs Chosen. Sin is going to answer with a unit of bodyguard, looking to avenge the death of their lord at the hands of these Arid Lancers. Charging now into the flank. I think that's going to go really poorly for those Lancers who are really starting to drop. Elsewhere in the back line, Sin just wreaking absolute havoc. Oh no, the Nimberdale Rangers! That's a huge, huge flanking charge. That's like the ideal attack. You can see just so many of them dying now. Oh my goodness. Oh, that unit just got absolutely devastated, completely pancaked. Oh, that's an absolute disaster. Rekrace now trying to move in. With some of his shield maidens, I don't know if they're going to be enough to take on the Brotherhood of the Lance, although the Brotherhood of the Lance are quite weakened at this point. Maybe it will be enough, but oh, those Nimberdale Rangers, that just hurt my heart to watch. Over here, it looks like Sin has finally mobilized his Cataphract Corps, possibly spurred on by the death of his general. Maybe he's decided that now is the decisive moment, charging into battle with his Variag Cataphracts, although kind of piecemeal. He could get himself surrounded by the Royal Guard of Rekrace. If Rekrace sees his opportunity, he has the chance to surround these guys. So there is a downside to that. If he overcommits to fight this one unit of Cataphracts, which is maybe what Sin is counting on here, then he will get flanked by the remaining Cataphract units, of which there is quite a lot. Look at this. He's just holding these guys out as bait. Rekrace isn't going to take it, though. He's just going to pummel these Variag Cataphracts with his Riders of the Fold. The Variag Cataphracts realize that their enemy is not going to be taken at unawares. They're beginning to fall back now after taking some fairly light casualties, and probably a significant amount of HP damage as well. So it was a good gamble, and I think a lot of people would really take the opportunity to take down a Variag Cataphract unit very easily with cap superiority, but unfortunately Rekrace wasn't going to go for it, and Sin is going to get the worst of that engagement. Let's take a look now at the Gondorian battle line. looking really thin. Although over on the Gondorian right flank, they are managing to beat back the Haradrim, so we could start to see a flanking movement here to surround these Casimir's Chosen, which might allow them to bring things back from the brink a little bit. There is some Corsairs Blackguard back here, which could present a menace to these Tier 3 Wardens if they expose their flanks. And there is still all of these missile units to deal with. So the Haradrim do have some answers to a Gondorian flanking movement, but I don't think they're really going to need it. Oh, these poor guards of Gilead just getting massacred by the Casimir's Chosen, and these Trollmen just managing to push through. Looks like there's some artillery fire coming in here. Oh no, the Gondorian Ballista, although they're, at this point, honestly, there's nobody there left to man them. Things seem to be really turning in favor of the Haradrim, who've now managed to break through with some of the Aberzani Nardu Zagar. I believe this is one of Cadenfodder's general units, and they're like a very, very powerful low number infantry unit with AP. Oh man, some horse archers in the back now charging into these Tier 3 Wardens. Almost a bit of a desperation move. I think Sin realizes that these guys are kind of caught out behind enemy lines and just wants to get some use out of them. Elsewhere, the Gondorians are really being heavily beaten back. You can see a flanking movement now on the part of the Casimir's Chosen, backed up by, surprisingly, some Haradrim spear units who managed to come out of this storm alive, now flanking the Gondorians. Oh, it looks like that's one of the infantry generals getting charged in the rear by what appears to be some Brotherhood of the Lance. Things turning into a bit of a massacre here for the Gondorians. Requius really committing on his cav. He's really doubled down here. You can see the Royal Guard have now charged into battle with some Spearmen support. So this is a fight I think that they can ultimately win, taking on the Hashari Shadows and the Variag Cataphracts, who are moving now in for a surround. This is what I was worried about. An overcommitment here on the part of your cav. Maybe keeping one unit in reserve could have helped avoid this. But because he's committed so many of his cav units, they are going to be surrounded. Ooh, had a little bit of a lag there. So yeah, these cav units are getting themselves surrounded, but at least he's managed to get some of his riders of the fold in here to help turn this flank a little bit faster. But the Haradrim, now having finished with most of the Gondorian center, are turning around, wheeling into the flank of these riders of the fold. I think this is going to spell disaster for the Gondorians. Let's go ahead and let's speed it up just a little bit here. More and more cycle charges coming into the rear of the Gondorian infantry formation. You can see some of the Tier 3 marksmen having been committed to the fight in a desperation bid by Gondor to try and hold the line. Ultimately, I think the Haradrim infantry is going to prevail here, pushing through and isolating what remains of the Gondorian resistance. What do we have over here? It looks like some Corsair Blackguards, a very healthy unit of them. Still 163, so they've taken almost no casualties. Moving in to try and flank some of the Gondorians. They're a little bit out of position, though. Don't think they're going to be using a flanking movement at all. I think they might be moving over here to try and throw some of their javelins into the Royal Lords. It's a ballsy move. If those Royal Lords decide they want to charge into the front of those Blackguards, they will annihilate them. But if those Blackguards can get into the flank or rear of those Royal Lords and lay down some enfilading fire, they will decimate them. So these Royal Lords really have their work cut out for them. Brotherhood of the Lance just being absolutely relentless. There's still some Nimrodel Rangers left. I can't believe it. They're slowly being cut down. And there are 4 or 5 of them just dying before our eyes. But a lot of these Athelian Rangers, I think, are going to really struggle to hold in the face of all of the insurmountable odds arrayed against them. There's infantry coming in now, and these Brotherhood of the Lance, they're just everywhere at once. Really solid cavalry micro on the part of Sin. Looks like that's one of the other Gondorian generals. I think that's Cannon Fodder's general has now fallen in battle. Very unfortunate to see. Oh no, never mind. That's not Cannon Fodder. That would be Mechanic 007's general. That's my bad. Oh man, these Brotherhood of the Lance just being an absolute nightmare. This poor Citadel Guard just not able to hold the line against all of this infantry arrayed against them, being surrounded and charged on every side. The Corsair Blackguards now actually being used in a flanking movement after all. Looks like we might see a big javelin volley here. Oh, it's going to be devastating. Oh, no, after all, they're going to charge into battle. I think that's going to be enough to begin to rout some of these infantry units. And look at this, the Citadel Guard as well. Another general kill for Sin, just being an absolute terror with those Brotherhood of the Lance, causing so much problems for the Gondorians. You can see some artillery fire coming in, claiming the lives of many of these Athelian Rangers. They're still quite healthy, but there's just not enough of them. Maybe if they had an army of Athelian Rangers, they could turn this engagement around, but unfortunately, there's just nothing that they can do. The last proud member of the Brotherhood of the Lance, it's the banner bearer of all people, proudly charging out of there. Looks like he's going for one last glorious engagement into the rear of these Tier 3 Wardens. He might rout them. If he routs them all by himself, I don't even know what to say. No, maybe. No, I don't think it's going to happen. That would have been an... Oh, he did! Oh my god, he did! That Brotherhood of the Lance unit is really the MVP in this battle. That is amazing to me. Yeah, most of the Gondorians have now broken. It's really just Recreus and his cavalrymen left on the field looking to avenge their fallen Gondorian allies. This Casimir Chosen taking a huge charge from the mounted shield maidens. They have a decent charge value, but you don't want to keep them here for too long. And this is where disaster happens. What happened was there was about a 5%, I think, crash at this point. So what is happening in terms of a scenario is that the Gondorians realize that they have been defeated, and so the cavalrymen flee to bring news to Gondor so that potentially they can assemble another army and exact their revenge upon the victorious Haradrim. So unfortunately, we will not be getting a casualty screen for this, but let's take one glorious look here at the battle. Look at the destruction here on this battle line. That is literally probably about 10,000 troops that have fallen in this engagement. You can see some of the Haven Guard now putting up a final last stand, not fleeing in the face of danger because they are the Haven Guard. Cutting down some of these Gondorians. You can see this guy just skewering that poor Southron archer. Very unfortunate. I'm sure they would have taken down many hundreds of foes before the end. But that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you are interested in sending in some of your own replays to the official Third Age channel, make sure you take a look at the link down in the description. And do subscribe to them and follow them on Twitch. And follow them on Twitch. There's a lot of really cool stuff there. I think there's going to be a giveaway coming up pretty soon as well. So you definitely want to get in on that if you can. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!